Good evening, WAAAGH. That's right, this is Greenskin Week. The WAAAGH week, if you will. Total WAAAGH. Anyway, welcome to my Greenskin Week, as we're going to focus all the multiplayer battles I play are going to be as Greenskins, but I'll probably sprinkle in some other factions through there just so you all get some action. There's going to be an army very similar to one I used on the stream last night, and it is against Lizardmen again. This time the Lizards have Tic-Tac-Toe, the Colossedon Hunters, and a Skink Chief. I'm going to slow it down for just a second so we can call everything out. My front line is a unit of Black Orcs. Why did I bring this? They can't be terror routed, and they're an absolute nightmare for Lizardmen infantry. Just one, though. Just one is all I felt to bring. I've got one Orc Boys, and then on either flank I have a Savage Orc unit. So again, these guys are going to be good versus stuff like Skinks, and then the Orc Boys, just a little bit of extra fodder. Now on the second line I have some Orc Biggins. I get my tongue twisted on this stuff. So I've got two Orc Biggins in the second lines for a little bit of anti-large. Orc Biggins double as pretty decent against Saurus warriors, so that's why I brought them. And then I have one Boar Biggin for a little bit of protection for the Rusty Heirs. And then WAAAGH has his Bonewood Staff, which that one's kind of important. Anytime you're casting, your units get kind of like a mini WAAAGH with attack on it. And then I have one Arachnarok Spider. Now, the Lizardmen have Tic-Tac-Toe, a Skink Chief, both of them mounted on Pterodon, and then the Colossedon Hunters, which is the Ripperdactyl Rider with a bonus versus large. We've got a Bastillodon Solar Engine here. Then on the front line, there are 3 Skink cohorts. And then in the secondary lines here, there are 2 Saurus warriors with 1 Temple Guard in the back. The Temple Guard is guarding a Skink Priest, Lore of Beast, and then there is a Croxagore and one Saurus Spear. And I've got also Morgrub's Mangy Marauders and a Forest Goblin Spider Rider. Morgrub's Mangy Marauders are just a fantastic unit for this matchup because the Lizards have a lot of high-value armored targets, and they are a relatively cheap armor-piercing missile cavalry. Now, right away, I want to get after this this Bastillodon and then kind of force the hand of my opponent. He's going to go ahead and summon up a Manticore. Not a bad call, getting some extra units right now. His Bastillodon is able to kind of get away because it has plenty of infantry around to guard it. I'm not real worried about the Ragnarok Spider yet. And the Air Force of the Lizardmen is moving in between Tic-Tac-Toe and the Skink Chief. The Skink Chief is targeting my valuable units here. And then as for WAAAGH, I'm kind of just holding him back. I'm going to go help against the Stegodon. I went ahead and used the, the Effigy to get on the Stegodon to hold it still so my Biggins could kind of start beating on it. And then Tic-Tac-Toe wants to go all in over here. He's got the Colossedon Hunters, probably thinks he can get a quick kill, but it's not going to happen because I have a lot of anti-large in this fight. The Biggins, both on the boar and on foot, are going to start crumping these lizard gits with relative ease, and then with WAAAGH right there to keep the leadership high, it's helpful. I'm able to pour some missile fire in there as well, bring the Spider over. Meanwhile, not a great situation here as my Giant is getting swamped by Temple Guards and Croxagores. Not a fight he's going to like, and somehow, some way, my gits get crumped here. But I did drop a huge foot of Gork over here on this piled up Temple Guard, and got rid of most of it all at once. So the Giant sacrifice was not without some effect there, and then of course that trips off the Bonewood Staff anytime I'm casting a spell and just makes the rest of my troops fight harder. You can see all the anti-large here, now joined by the Spider. This blob is just terrible for the Lizards to be in. They're not going to want to be there. Now, back here, I had to deal with that Feral Manticore, but I'm going to bring these 2 units in and start shooting that Bastillodon in the back. Again, my Giant is not loving life, but there's really no way for him to get away from this. And to be fair, the Croxagores are kind of wasted against the Giant too, so I'm kind of okay with the fight that he's in at the moment. You can see Tic-Tac-Toe was routed out of that fight. The Skink Chief, I can't do anything about him. He's just going to hover above me and hit me with some really painful missiles there. Now on this flank, the Savage Orcs are taking on a Saurus Spear. They won't like this fight a lot. They did down a Skink cohort. Savage Orcs don't have any armor, and that kind of makes them not great against Saurus Warriors, because Saurus Warriors do have mid-tier armor, and both dish out a lot of damage, but having that extra armor kind of gives the Saurus the edge in that fight, which is why I also brought 2 Biggins and the Black Orc, so that I could still overpower any Saurus Warriors or Temple Guards that were going to be on the battlefield. You see that Solar Engine still raining fire down from behind. trying to do as much damage as it can, and it has. It's done a considerable amount of damage. It's almost picked up a chevron. My Black Orc came back from routing. It's kind of just sitting back here at the moment while I fire away at that Bastiladon, and then my Giant, I was too distracted to reactivate him yet, but we will. And right here, I get very lucky. WARHAMMER almost routs in this fight, but I managed to get him out. He's under fire from the Skink Chief, and he's in a very dangerous situation at the moment. He's kind of snagged in a bunch of Saurus and Temple Guards, but they were moving, routing, I should say, at just the right time. I'm able to pull through, and that Skink Chief does keep firing. And so WARHAMMER's in some pretty serious trouble here. I'm going to have to use my Rusty Errors to get a hold of some appropriate units. So I see Tic Tac kind of waiting for his opportunity. So I'm going to use the Rusty Errors to make sure that he's kind of out of the way. But yeah, WARHAMMER's going to have to stay safe at this point. Ragnarok Spider, very healthy. The Giant got downed by the Bastiladon because I didn't notice it in time, but the Bastiladon is getting wrecked by my light cavalry, and it won't really have a good answer to them. I think he's going to turn fire at them, but... Or, sorry, he's going to fire at the Black Orc. Probably not a bad choice. Anyway, you can see over here, I'm going to get a Flock of Doom against me from the Skink Priest, and then WARHAMMER is going to find himself in a chase that he doesn't really like here. He's trying to avoid Tic-Tac-Toe and this last Colossadon Hunter all at once. Fortunately for me, the Rusty Errors are here, and they punish Tic-Tac-Toe very badly because he gets poisoned, and then it's ripping his armor off. He's not a very high armor unit to begin with. The Colossadon Hunter actually berserks here. You can see there's a Skink Priest. Everybody is determined to get WARHAMMER. This is the get WARHAMMER moment. The WARHAMMER on his boar is just fast enough to keep dancing in front of his opponents, and he's going to be relatively safe here as long as I keep him moving. I'm pretty shocked at the speed of some of these units. Pretty impressive how they keep up, but the Rusty Errors go unchallenged here, and so I'm able to use them to very good effect, and I'm able to bring home a victory. I had the Black Orcs back in, the Spider was still there, the Lizardmen infantry just didn't have a prayer against what was left, and they were almost out of options to do anything about WARHAMMER. Their Skink Chief probably could have finished him, but then they would have still been stuck against an Ragnarok with almost all of their leadership gone and very low on infantry. So Lizardmen admit defeat, so we were able to crump the Lizards tonight. Thank you to Kill Them All for a honorable and fun game here. Kind player in the lobby made sure we all had time to ready up. I love running into players like this who are playing multiplayer. They're good sports about it, and they're having a good time. So this is always a joy to come into these folks, win or lose, situation regardless. You can see that this Savage Orc got a hold of a lot of Skinks, and poor Skinks just get trashed by Savage Orcs. It's one of the reasons why I bring them. They are a hard counter to Skinks as far as infantry goes. Orc boys, okay, they're not going to be great. They'll probably lose to Saurus. They'll probably beat Skinks. It was just an extra unit for me to throw in, and they had shields. The Orc big guns, like I said, they can kind of double against Saurus, and they're pretty good against large. They're not fantastic, but they're not bad. They're weak to terror, so be careful with these guys. You don't want to get them terror bombed. I'm always glad I bring the light cavalry, even though it doesn't look like it did anything in this battle. It was doing a lot of damage and keeping the attention of key units. It forced the use of a, a feral manticore that wasn't able to kill these units despite all the magic used on it. So that's kind of a win in and of itself when you can get someone to do that. Bonewood Staff, WARHAMMER, one of my favorite lords. He is really fun to bring. He can be supported nicely by several different units. He's not entirely helpless on his boar either. He does decent damage. He's a little bit squishy, but he does decent damage, and he's got speed. And he has Effigy to get, which effectively gives you 2 1-unit nets, right? You can use it on either... you can use it on a single unit twice. And it's a pretty good amount of time in between them, so it's not OP, but it gives you some good options. Also, Lore the Big Wah that WARHAMMER has access to. Foot of Gork is very useful. Some people think it's too expensive to be useful. An elite infantry unit with high armor, Foot of Gork is very good against it. Cavalry units that get blobbed up, Foot of Gork will absolutely wipe them out. And so it's a very good spell in the Big Wah, and it can be used to good effect in multiple scenarios. On top of that, you can bring the, Edbutt magic missile spell. I think it costs like 4. And you can keep casting that over and over again to trigger the Bonewood Staff, which gives all your units a lot of extra melee attack for like 17 seconds every time you cast a spell. So you can bring Foot of Gork if you don't need it, just keep casting Edbutts, and you're going to get this Bonewood Staff triggering constantly on your units to make them fight better. And so it kind of gives you like an extra wah, if you will, just spread out potentially over longer periods of time. Do a fun pick from the Lizardmen here. Tic-tac-toe, not what I expected. Potentially useful. Sometimes greenskins are weak to flyers. I could see how Tic-tac with the Colossedons could be used to pick off a greenskin lord and thus throw their whole army into chaos. It didn't work this time. I had a lot of anti-large. And the good thing about the greenskins is you can bring some anti-large that's still good against their infantry, which I think gives the greenskins a competitive match against the lizards when it comes to these head-to-head brawls. Some of you probably prefer one over the other. I think the greenskins are very competitive with the lizardmen, just in the sense that the lizards do struggle to answer the infantry of the greenskins unless they bring a bunch of dinosaurs, and then if they do that, it allows the greenskins to do something like this, like I've done. Effigy to get combined with a spider or a giant or 2 spiders or whatever it is you decide to do. Boar biggins, armor sundering arrows. Those kind of things add up, and it makes it challenging for the lizardmen to just absolutely truck the greenskins. Plus, they've put in unit caps, so you can't bring like 4 Bastillodons anymore and screw up the greenskin infantry line with all those because the unit caps don't allow it. So I kind of think the unit caps made the lizards significantly weaker versus a faction like the greenskins, where in the past they could have preyed upon the greenskins' weakness to large. The greenskins, before the spider got anti-large, they were very vulnerable to large monsters, very vulnerable to it because of the terror route. Doesn't mean they had no answer, but it was just something that they really had to be careful of when it came right down to it, because most of their anti-large options were pretty prone to terror and didn't always have the mobility that you want. So the spider is a great unit to throw in there. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. Appreciate my opponent. It was fun to have him here, and really appreciate you all who joined the stream last night. If you haven't seen the stream, get over and watch the video on demand. It's fun. You can skip through all the in-between parts. There's 5 battles there. It was a good time. I even took a chance to critique some Star Wars, if you want to hear about that. If you don't, it's okay. It's just my opinion, but it was kind of fun. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Hope to see you all soon with some more Total War Warhammer 2 action.